don't know can you hear me? All right. I have a theater background, so I don't need a mic. I don't have a theater background, I told you. Do a little song and dance for you. And just to let you know, I just did another reading out of this, because you go to readings and you see the amount of pages people have sometimes. And, oh my God, is he going to read all those fucking pages? A lot of these have been cut, so I'm not going to read all of these pages. Just to let you know. I'm going to read very, very few sections out of this. This is from my upcoming memoir called Liar. And of course I'm reading from a book that's not for sale. It's always wise. But if you enjoy this, my previous novel is pretty much exactly like it. If you don't like this is an enormous departure. You should pick it up next year. This is a non-linear narrative, so each section is dated. This is rolling all over. That's not there. So, 1980, and it's a memoir largely about mental illness and addiction. It's cheery. 1989. You stay with your friend Laura and her numerous roommates down in the low numbers on Avenue B in New York. There are at least 10 people in the apartment at any one time. One night you're on an abandoned building's roof and you take acid along with 3 or 4 of her friends. You and Laura used to be very close, but something's off on this visit, and her roommates don't seem to like you at all. But you tell yourself you always think people don't like you, and you find out later most of them do. You tell yourself to lighten up and not worry. Not only do they not dislike you, they probably don't even think about you. You're not the center of the universe. You tell yourself to stop worrying about what other people think, because all they are worried about is what other people think. You feel more mature coming to this realization. Maybe you're getting less insecure. You look out at the city about an hour after the acid comes on full force, and you realize you understand how cities work. You get it, totally. You turn to tell Laura that you know how cities function, every single fucking level of how they function. You understand it so well you may have fucking invented cities. She looks at you very confused and says, "What, dude?" Her roommate looks at you and then back at Laura, then back at you and then back at Laura, and the friend says, "I don't like him." Aw, and it's a true story. 1972, your first overdose. You're 6 and your father is a pharmacist in Fairfield Hills Mental Hospital. You're bored and you end up crawling around on the floor and take a red pill that looks like candy. Before too long, you feel better than you have ever felt before. Your brain and body float. It's like gravity has been defeated. You curl up in a blissed ball in the back corner of the pharmacy. Another pharmacist finds you on the floor. You can barely make out words and images, but you are as happy as you have ever been. People around you, though, seem nervous. Your father, other people ask what you have taken, what it looked like. You manage to say that it was red and round. It looked like candy. You're carried out of the pharmacy and they make you throw up over and over, but this is not enough and they pump your stomach. It's awful. Everyone around you seems so concerned, and you wonder why they couldn't have just left you where you were, feeling so good for once. I'm sorry. 1990. In Florida, you are in the middle of a psychotic episode, and you become convinced that you and only you have a plan to end the world's suffering, and you need to get the message to the president immediately. This profound message, of course, is lost now. There's no chance it was a plan, let alone a good one. And there's no chance that you could have ever reached the president of the local Knights of Columbus, let alone of the United States. Your roommates try to talk you down, but you just know that you have come up with a plan to end the world's suffering, and only you can articulate it, and you need to reach the most powerful person in the world, and then you will have saved everyone. You will be a hero. Your roommates are still trying to talk to you, and you end up running out of your apartment. You're barefoot, wearing only jeans. It's August, and Florida is soupy and beyond muggy. Old people and babies drop dead on nights like this. Sweat stings your eyes. A police car is turning towards you and you're on red alert. You are in a psychotic episode, but you never, never, never lose sight of what cops and hospital people can do to you. You duck around a corner and pray they don't see you. Just being out without shirt and shoes in Florida can get you a curb sit, and they will not understand what you have to say to the president, and they will lock you up. Once you turn that corner, veer off track, you keep going, and you end up walking 5 miles south to the beach, looking over your shoulder the whole way. Your feet become cut. There are bits of crushed windshield glass stuck in your skin, and it begins to hurt to walk. You're still in the episode, but no longer believe you've got any plan to save the world. You know now that you must have had a psychotic episode because of how different they feel from waking up from a blackout. Waking up from a blackout, you just need to puke and drink more. The hangover from an episode is different because you come out of it gradually, still hearing and seeing things, but knowing they are not real. You have no idea what you said or did during the episode, and you don't until people tell you about it. You hate that you're usually too fucked up or too crazy to know what you've said or done, that your memories are at the mercy of eyewitness accounts of your friends and lovers. You don't know which you hate yourself more for, the oblivion you can control or the one you can't, though you of course always feel more shame at being crazy than being fucked up. You sit cross-legged on the beach facing the Gulf of Mexico, which is choppy with a red tide that has kept everyone away except the poor who fish to eat. Along with the glass are bits of shells and sand embedded in the cuts in your feet, and you walk down to the water and try to clean out the cuts. The Gulf is bathtub warm, and you're hearing voices. You look around, no one is anywhere near you, yet you are hearing several voices talking just out of range of you being able to understand what they're saying. The wind talks, the water talks, you answer in nonsense phrases. This happens near the end of an episode. You try to ignore the voices. You know they're not there. You know they're not real. But of course they are real. You've heard them throughout your life. They are as real as a memory or a love affair. They aren't there. They never have been, but they are real. 2012. One day in an MFA workshop you're teaching, one of the students, a quick-witted, sharp, and funny woman, asks in front of the class, "Don't you have any stories that don't end up with you passed out in an elevator or pissing blood or in a drunk tank? Don't you have any stories that end with you having a cup of tea and going to bed early?" Didn't make much of a book. 1995. The night you and Gail get married while driving across country, you stay in what passes for a posh hotel in Salt Lake City. Late in bed, you ask her why she has 2 pillows and you have only 1. "Because they only gave us 3, she says. And you know you are in love. 1982. Mary, who 7 years from now will be your fiancé, is absolutely in love with REM. You are just close friends at this point in high school. She's dating some college guy from out of town who you can't stand. Yet you are always together. She plays you REM every chance she gets. You are not nearly as taken with them as she is. And one night you are drinking her father's beer and popping his Valium on his porch, and you tell her that you like certain parts of their songs, but never the whole thing. You will later end up loving some of their songs, but it's not how you feel at the time. You specifically mention Radio Free Europe and say the verses are dull and unmemorable, but the choruses are amazing. Their songs never seem to be great all the way through. There's just always something that doesn't work. I hope none of REM are here. "But don't you get it," she says. "It's the bad parts that make you realize how good the great parts are." You will live many more years, many more in fact than anyone would have predicted for you. You will read and sometimes even understand Nietzsche and Heidegger and Aristotle and Kristeva and a bunch of other great thinkers, trying to make some sense out of your world. But you often think that you have never heard a better philosophy than the wisdom Mary shares that night, fucked up on the back porch. It's the bad parts that make you realize how good the great parts are. Thank you.